everyone, welcome back to our new episode of healthcAIr India. In today's episode, we'll be talking to Dr. Karthik Anantharaman, who has been in the healthcare industry for a quite long time now and understand this industry very well. Today's conversation will be a very exciting and interesting one as we talk about future of healthcare, major breakthroughs we can expect in the upcoming decade and a lot more. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Yeah. So starting with, as whenever we turn around to someone and ask for what is the most promising and important trend that will define the next decade of transformation, we'll most likely hear about artificial intelligence as one of the most important themes, or you can say that keywords. Like
Yeah.
it's now becoming a buzzword, and that's true. It's pervasive in all our daily lives, starting from daily spam information in email, or Netflix recommendation, or news feed timelines of social media apps. So what do you think, how is AI used in healthcare, and how will this game changing technology will impact the patient care in the future?
Sure. No, I think to start with, it's very important to realize what's the definition of the role of artificial intelligence itself in healthcare. And there are key stakeholders that need to understand the value of AI. So one naturally is the doctor, because doctor is the most important aspects of a service delivery within the healthcare system. Second is the patient who seeks consultation from the doctor. And third, I would say, would be the key stakeholders. Could be like, the owners of hospitals, nursing homes, investors in healthcare service delivery, and of course, pharmaceutical organizations, laboratory diagnostic service organizations, radiology service organizations, and naturally the companies that actually make the technologies, the medical devices as we call, and most importantly access, which is basically medical insurance or healthcare insurance. So all of these are critical stakeholders in actually making sure that the complete you can say integration of the healthcare ecosystem happens. So therefore I see that there is a role of artificial intelligence across this entire ecosystem. And only when the role of artificial intelligence is very clearly understood by all these stakeholders is when we would have done justice to the right leverage on this. So what exactly is artificial intelligence? From the past experience, we can see that many people have understood artificial intelligence as something which may potentially replace human intelligence, or something which may kind of take over human domination when it comes to decision making, right? So we've seen this experience, and I'm sure, I think one of the core, or rather possibly the front runners in AI in healthcare has been IBM Watson Health. And Watson Health has done a lot of work, as we know, in actually trying to transform clinical decision making in healthcare. But it is very important that even before we deploy something like a Watson Health or a similar algorithm in any healthcare system, it is important to have the right orientation and the right understanding, to all the doctors and key healthcare stakeholders in that ecosystem or in that institution. Uh, Artificial intelligence has a huge potential to be a great data-driven decision-making tool, which will help doctors to make better informed decisions. And it is not a tool which is there to actually replace doctors in the near future. I think that perception, that clear understanding of how AI can be a great assistant to me if I were a treating doctor, it is a great assistant that I can rely upon, where directionally my chances of going wrong in decision making is going to be much, much lesser if I rely upon the insights that this tool or this algorithm is going to give me. I think if that is the attitude and mindset with which we approach artificial intelligence, there are wonders, or there are great things that we can do. And this definitely has a great opportunity to reduce medical errors, because one of the key challenges that we face not just in India, but in most of the emerging economies today, is there is no standardization of healthcare. Okay. So if you go into a government hospital, what we call as the patient journey is very different and very unique versus if you go into a corporate hospital. And even in corporate hospital, the sad state of affairs is that we have very few clinicians who actually go by clinical experience and clinical insight. So what most doctors we see is the moment you go, the first thing the hospital asks is, do you have insurance? Now, if you have insurance, the approach is different. If you don't have insurance, the approach is different. And then instead of really going by clinical insight, I've seen a lot of clinicians directly go on ordering investigations, which is not right. So, therefore, having artificial intelligence gives us that opportunity to make sure that from all the wealth of data, patient information, and anonymized patient data that is gathered in the algorithm, it actually guides you in the right clinical decision making process itself. So, it can very well be leveraged by doctors and clinical systems as a great data driven decision making assistant in very, very simple words. But having that right perspective and right, I would say, understanding and attitude to accept it in that format is extremely important.
That's true. That's true, sir. Yeah, as talking about data, we have also heard the phrase data is the new oil. So, what do
Yes.
you think? Like, or that how lots of data is collected about the patients. So, it's been
Yes.
wasted unless we are not utilizing it and analyzing it using by AI system.
True. Absolutely. So think about it. Even today, healthcare is predominantly in our country concentrated in the cities, in the urban centers.
Mm.
The quality of healthcare that you would get once you go into smaller towns and cities is still not really anything to talk about. You don't have doctors in many instances. But do we have to really cry about it? The answer is no. I see a lot of people writing on social media, in newspapers, oh, the authorities have to do something about it. The health minister has to do something about it. Trust me, nobody is going to do anything about anything, right? If we need change, we need to change it. We don't have to cry and rona dhona on social media that somebody, a messiah will come and help us. Nobody will come. So if we need the change, we have to do it. That's all it is, as simple as that. Now, how can we do it? Do it with data driven decisions. What artificial intelligence can do is, I'll give you example of maybe cancer. I can give you example of rare diseases like hemophilia, or instances, there are some very rare conditions like sickle cell anemia, where these kind of diseases are out there in the community. It affects the rich and the poor both. It is not really linked to any kind of a socioeconomic status. But the point is, where is the access to healthcare? So do we still, even in 2020, want to see people coming in from a tier 2 or a tier 3 town or a city, driving down 400, 500, 600 kilometers to a big city, get themselves admitted there in the hospital, and then spending so much of money to kind of get the right quality of healthcare? I don't think that's required anymore, unless it's a critical condition that needs you to be on a ventilator, on some kind of a life-saving machine, or you need a critical surgery which is going to kind of be better in terms of prognosis. Unless it is that kind of a thing, for managing routine conditions, it is not required. And I think all that is required is to leverage technology there. So therefore, all primary healthcare centers, and beyond that, even I think smartphone penetration in our country is like really, really good. So naturally, everyone is on WhatsApp, is on Instagram, and on Facebook. And why not healthcare? So why don't we use healthcare using technology? Honestly, there is no need to physically see a doctor face to face anymore for routine chronic conditions and routine follow up. There is no need to waste 2 hours of time traveling on the road in traffic and seeing a doctor and coming back. You can very well do it on your phone. I think using that is important. Second, where are the patients? So whether it's patients who are living in distant cities, so instead of having the patient having to come to a tertiary care center or a large hospital in a city maybe once in a month to take an injection, to take an infusion, so if we have the data collected in one place, can we therefore go and deliver it as home care in the periphery itself, which significantly increases access to healthcare? I think all of this is enabled by data and insights driven by data, which is what artificial intelligence enables. So the key to this is to make sure that we adapt or adopt to AI and data-driven decision making now, sooner than later, and that will actually lead to increased access to healthcare. It brings down cost of healthcare. So all the unnecessary cost of travel, and during travel, the amount of time that we waste in not getting access to therapy. So all of that will be significantly impacted in a positive way by leveraging technology. So therefore, artificial intelligence is here to stay. Okay, it is not here to compete with doctors. It is here to assist doctors with data driven decision making. It is important. It is all in the way of how we use it, right? So therefore, the sooner we understand how to put it to the best use, I think we will be able to make better decisions using it.
Artificial intelligence is all about working with it rather than it will replace someone else, or it will
Absolutely.
yeah, that's true. So with the high disruptiveness technology of health tech, and the robotic surgeries, IoT patient care, and AI charting, and much more. So what major breakthroughs are you expecting in the upcoming decade?
Well, I think telehealth or e-health itself is going to undergo a significant amount of disruption. So there is going to be, what we see is that with the pandemic and beyond the pandemic, what we foresee coming up is that there is a lot of collaboration which is happening these days. So earlier we used to see
Hmm.
companies compete with each other, but I am sure all of us have realized that uh, competing with one another is not really benefiting anyone anymore. So therefore, with this virtual mode of communication being like really helping all of us to sustain our businesses and move forward, we see that there is a lot more collaboration and an effort being made to work together instead of competing with each other, which is happening these days, which is a very good trend. Having said that, what does it mean in terms of healthcare? Yes, you can now see that a lot of health players will come into consolidation of complementary services. So it is the same patient who needs medicines. It is the same patient who needs a repeat follow-up, consultation or a second opinion. It is the same patient who needs repeat investigations. It is the same patient who needs the help from insurance, right? So therefore, a single platform which can harmonize and bring all of this together in an integrated fashion is going to be really, really helpful from a consumer perspective. So always keep customer in the center and then try to build your product or services around it. Second, with the National Digital Health Mission coming in place, I'm sure with a unique health identity number being allocated to every citizen in this country, that has a great opportunity to develop data science and data science related decision making for every citizen in this country. I would have personally liked that Aadhaar be a single unique identity for every citizen in this country. I did not see the need of another health identity parameter being created, but nevertheless, still, I think in the interest of patient benefit, if the National Digital Health Mission, the unique health ID, as we call, can actually be implemented quickly, and we can link health records, sequential health records to the UID, which is accessible from a cloud. I think it will significantly change the way how healthcare services can be offered. I still see people carrying huge printouts of reports, X-rays, CT scan, big plastic covers being carried to the hospital. I always keep wondering why. None of this needs to be in hard copy or printed copy anymore. Everything can just be on the cloud, and the hospital, the doctor can just at the click of a button review serial CT scans, MRI scans, X-rays on his laptop, on his tablet, on his phone, and make a decision basis that. So honestly, there is no need to print anything anymore. Everything can be on a cloud. And when you keep electronic health record in a sequential format, it also gives you a trend of how the patient's clinical condition has been. And you can actually draw trend lines for the past 4 quarters, like 12 months, 18 months, or 24 months, which leads to better decision making rather than trying to find, oh, 6 months ago, what has your report been? And you try to look for a hard copy amongst a bunch of files. I think we should really put all of those old practices to rest.
That's true. That's true. I have read somewhere, like you told about collaboration. Now it's happening. The one pharmaceutical company is not competing with other pharmaceutical company. It's like recently I have listened to news that Novartis and Google's are collaborating with each other, so that for the better patient outcome, patient said to make the patient centered healthcare ecosystem. Yeah,
Yes.
that's true. So moving on, as we see the rapid growth of AI around the globe in the healthcare system, so what do you think artificial intelligence should now be introduced into medical education?
Yes, absolutely. I can tell you. So when I was studying medicine, of course, the internet was in its very early days. We used to have what is called dial-up connection, and we didn't have a computer full time. We had just had one shared computer in our library. We didn't have too much access to it. Second, whatever used to be printed in our textbooks generally used to be dated. I think from the time a new clinical evidence got introduced into a medical textbook, it used to take like 10 to 15 years. And honestly, that's too long a time for any new innovation to kind of really get into, the education sector. Yes, I think those times have significantly changed now. And I think gone are the days that we need to go by a medical textbook to kind of become a doctor. I think the medical education needs to be real time, and medical education needs to be more hands on. Okay. So, therefore, what I definitely see is that artificial intelligence has a huge role to play there, specifically in making doctors that pass out of medical colleges with practical knowledge, with more practical knowledge. The reason why I say this is just not so long ago, we used to see that MBBS doctors that used to pass out of most medical colleges in our country didn't really have the right training on how to read an ECG. Didn't have the right training on how to actually kind of do a small venesection if someone needs an intravenous fluid. So therefore, the practical knowledge is very, very important if true healthcare access needs to change. And that's precisely what I'm again bringing back a point I made a few minutes ago, that I wish that we stop having doctors who, the moment you go to them, they start ordering investigations, do this test and come back to me. I would rather want to see more doctors who will use what they have learned, use the gray matter that you have in the brain, examine the patient, see what is wrong, and make a clinical decision, and only order investigation when absolutely required. That is when you use brain for decision making and not use lab report for decision making, right? So that is what I think making people think is what I would say artificial intelligence will bring in, because artificial intelligence should also challenge doctors in decision making, because as humans, it is, as we rightly say, it's very human to err. So none of us are perfect, we make mistakes, right? Let's accept it. But an artificial intelligence tool is one which can actually hold our hand if we are making something, if we are making a wrong decision, if we are directionally going wrong somewhere. It has a great potential to pull us back in the right direction. I think we should leverage data and data driven decision in that format.
Yes, absolutely, sir. So, talking about artificial intelligence is entering almost in every healthcare processes, whether it is medical practice or translational research, biomedical research. So, what do you think? Which healthcare processes has the biggest potential for the upcoming years to change the healthcare system ecosystem?
Yes, I'm sure all of us are like also reading in the news that the current vaccine development process is going through an altogether a new way of what you say, fast track clinical validation, a fast track regulatory approval, so that we are able to get the vaccine faster to the market. Uh, but at the same time, it is very important to understand that there is no shortcut to evaluating the safety and efficacy of any medicine or any vaccine. So safety and efficacy should never be compromised before we approve, before the regulators approve any new product and allow it to be marketed and brought into the market. Right. So therefore, I feel that that's precisely where I think in clinical development, and as you mentioned, in medical information, in translational research, this has a artificial intelligence has a huge role to play. That whatever earlier used to be more, I would say, sequential in terms of complete step one, then move to step two, then move to step three, and then complete it with step four. I think what AI makes it possible is to run multiple steps in parallel. So without compromising on some of the basic guardrails or tenets like safety or efficacy, so that you are able to reach faster to the market, and also at lesser cost, because sequential steps many times also has a potential to escalate costs. But if one were to run processes in parallel, it has an opportunity to optimize or reduce the development cost also significantly. So I
Yeah.
think it does have a role there.
Yes. So, like at the end, I would just like to ask you one question. What do you think when AI will, what AI will serve on the plate when it will come with its full potential?
um, I think data driven decision making, I'll put it that way. So the form and shape that AI can take can be different, right? An AI
Mhm.
can be a robo, an AI can be a chatbot, an AI can be on all types of hardwares that we use today. It can be on your tablet, it can be on your smartphone, it can be on your laptop, right? It can be on the navigation touchscreen of your car. It can be on the speedometer of a bike, right? So there are multiple applications that one can think of where AI will be beneficial, and it will continue to guide us with data-driven decision making. But having said that, yes, at the end of the day, the success of AI will depend on how best we understand how best to leverage it, right? And how best we put that to use, so that at the end of the day, if it is leading to the right decision making, more and more people will use it in that in a proper way. So we need those early adopters or early advocates who have the right attitude and approach to AI to kind of step forward, build very strong positive use cases of having made faster and better decisions in shorter span of time and at lesser cost using AI. Because going forward, I think reducing cost or health cost to society is going to be a major drive for every government and for every person in public health or in private healthcare sector. And AI has a huge opportunity to actually do that. So inorganic growth and incremental growth across healthcare business is something that one can actually look forward to if they really leverage AI in the right way.
That's amazing. That's true. So, thank you so much, sir, for having this conversation. These were some really interesting and thought provoking thoughts that we touched upon about AI in healthcare. And I'm so sure about it that our audience would enjoy listening to this conversation.
Thank you so
And
much,
yes,
Deepika.
most
Yeah.
importantly, thank you so much for sparing time for us and having this conversation.